Good afternoon. And this week's module, Module 6, is about how to teach. Probably what you've all been waiting for, correct? So, this is the basics of how to teach a lesson. Um, First thing we're going to do is describe different lesson types and the instructional purpose for each, and talk about the importance of providing a variety of learning activities. Hopefully, in this class, you will see a variety of different things because it would be very boring if you had the exact same activities every single week. Discuss digital assets and digital tools that are available for use in learning activities, especially those designed to support students with special needs. Purpose of a learning activity. So this is what your way of teaching is through learning activities. So the purpose is to introduce a new unit of study, to develop understanding of new concepts, practice of a previously introduced skill, application or synthesis of concepts or skills, review of concepts learned, and assessment for students' learning. There are many different types of learning activities, and they can all kind of fall under these very, very general and broad categories here. Lecture, that's what I'm doing right now, is teaching you, telling you about the content. Teacher-led discussions, where you give the students a prompt and they are going to discuss that. Cooperative learning or group work, where students are working together. And independent or individual work. Now, I will tell you that even in online classes, instructors are not only encouraged but expected to have all of these types of things. We should all be doing lectures and cooperative learning, including group work, even though I know that's not always a favorite in an online class. But all of these things are important as learning activities, regardless of the means and medium of delivery. So lectures are great because they can provide a visual structure to the work, the content. You can use graphic organizers. You can provide auditory cues, but you should keep the lecture purposeful, focused, clear. Follow a graphic organizer. Follow a PowerPoint presentation. Whatever. Be environmentally aware. None of your lectures should last for an hour and a half, for instance. Break it up with other activities. Monitor intention and plan breaks. Teacher-led discussions are great because you can give the prompt and find out what students know through their comments. You should mix types of questions, vary the focus of the questions. Make sure you plan the questions ahead of time. Just don't say, okay, today I'm going to do a discussion. Already have some idea of the questions that you're going to ask. Limit the number of questions you ask. Use wait time. Give students a chance to think about their answers. Monitor the student participation. Make sure you're hearing from everyone. And provide students with specific feedback. This is a point where I want to kind of talk about online discussions, because what I find a lot of times is students want to break down into saying things like, this was a great response. You did a good job with blah, blah, blah. You would never do that in a classroom. If you were sitting and talking, your conversation, your discussion would be adding to the topic. You could say, I agree with you there, but what do you think about this? And you would continue the conversation. You would not sit in a classroom and say, I liked the way you, or you did a good job with, because that's just kind of strange in a classroom discussion. So try to avoid that in online classes as well, to really continue the content rather than just rating your classmates. For cooperative learning and group work, the group is very much interdependent. So design tasks that require that interdependence, that you're going to have to work together to do this, instead of each student kind of doing their own thing and then pulling it together as a group. So assess both the individual student learning and the group product. Focus on social and interpersonal skills. Cooperative learning, there are different kinds of types. Student teams, achievement divisions is one type of strategy. A jigsaw is another activity. All of these can be looked up. A lot of them are done by groups that have tried to reform education and have come up with different ones. Think, Pair, Share is a great one. I've even done that in professional development where you get together, everybody has a topic to think about. You do that part first, and then the direction is turn to your neighbor and talk about what you each did, and then several people share out to the entire group. Number heads together is another way of doing that type of activity. When you manage cooperative learning activities, you need to help students develop group process skills. They need to learn to work together, and that includes organizational skills, communication skills, interpersonal skills. Whenever I do group projects in online classes, I always add in time for them to get to know each other first by communicating in a group discussion and kind of making that connection before they actually start working on the content itself. Manage your classroom effectively. If you're doing cooperative types of work, make sure to determine appropriate noise levels, allow for some student movement to access resources, and be ready to accept less control over the student learning. When you're grouping students for cooperative learning, you may do it several different ways. You may allow students to pick their own groups. You may assign students to groups. You can group them heterogeneously by level of ability. When I assign group projects, and I almost always assign the students myself, I will look through and try not to have all of the A+ students in one group and all the students who are struggling in another group. Independent work is another category, and in independent work, students work by themselves to complete a task, and it may really be used to assess the students' understanding and mastery of concepts. Timing and pacing, we've talked about that a little bit already in a previous chapter, but this is where you will learn that you may sometimes need to adjust learning activities. It may be that the students are clearly well on their way to full mastery of this information, and maybe you don't need to spend any more time on it. Or it may be that you may need to do some reteaching and go over some concepts again. And so timing and pacing is important. When you're pacing learning, divide your time, share timing information with your students, tune into that audience. Technology has been a wonderful thing in many ways, as we all know. So there are lots of technology tools that have been created that are helpful in education. Handheld graphing calculators. Not something I've ever had to use in my entire life, but if you're teaching math, that's a tool that will probably come in very handy. Interactive whiteboards, smart boards, as they're called. Those can be very useful because you can pull up a computer on a big white screen, and then you can write on it with whiteboard markers. LCD projectors are fantastic for showing presentations, and a lot of classrooms have smart TVs today. Digital instruction is available throughout the curriculum, and there's many things to consider there. Some state legislators have investigated the possibility of digital devices and digital curriculum taking the place of physical textbooks. Some states have already done that, where there's no physical textbook anymore. Students aren't carrying it back and forth, but they all have tablets, so they all have one-to-one computers. This is especially helpful in areas like English, because word processing has made writing more efficient. Mathematics, education, science, social studies, all of those have had benefits from technology being integrated into the curriculum. So, as I mentioned, language art, words processing, presentation tools, multimedia options for math, math-specific software, online tutorials, science handheld data probes, digital microscopes and cameras, internet resources. Social studies, you can have simulation software, geography map-making software, virtual field trips. All of those are important in those basic core classes. With integrating technology, I've already mentioned several things about online learning, and that has met the needs of many, many students. I've actually been teaching online courses for a very, very long time. And many teachers didn't start doing that till the pandemic. I was teaching online for several decades before the pandemic. But once that occurred, then there was a lot of need for people to learn how to teach online. And it comes with its own challenges and benefits. Certainly, I've always thought that it was an ideal way for students to learn who are traveling, maybe homeschooled students whose parents travel around. For students with a medical situation that doesn't allow them to go to school, online can meet the needs of those students. I've had high school students before who were pregnant, had a baby, couldn't really come back to school a few days later, so this gave some flexibility in their learning. So it can meet the needs of a lot of different situations. But technology has also been used to help students with disabilities, and those are usually called assistive or adaptive technology. So there's quite a few of those. I don't think I have a slide for that, but screen readers that use text-to-speech software that vocalizes what's shown there, screen magnifiers that make things larger, refreshable braille displays, voice recognition software, adaptive keyboards, single switches. Those are just some of the tools that have been made available for students with disabilities. Technology is sometimes thought of as a new way to teach and a new way to learn, but teachers' roles and responsibilities and resources are very different. But most teachers today have test software available. They have record keeping with electronic grade books. You can use communication through blogs or emails, big group emails to parents and so forth. So there are a lot of advantages for technology today. As I mentioned, online learning, rapidly growing alternative to face-to-face instruction, virtual high schools, which were established in 1997, now offer over 300 courses to high school students. I was one of the pioneer teachers for the North Carolina Virtual Public School, teaching art in a virtual environment. With students with disabilities, I mentioned all of those tools that are available, and that our roles and responsibilities and resources have changed. You can use technology to enhance productivity. It's great for curriculum and lesson planning, assessment, record keeping, and communications. There are task and technology tools available for both teachers and students for research, collaboration, communication, composing, presenting, and collecting data, analyzing data, acquiring and practicing skills, assessing, and publishing. So that's it for this week's content. If you have any questions, please let me know.